Migrant encounters at the border hit a 21-year high last month, with agents detaining more than 200,000 migrants, a 419% increase over last year. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was at the border yesterday, calling the situation complicated and insisting the border is closed. But listen to what he said privately to border officials in leaked audio Fox News has obtained exclusively.
It's unsustainable. These numbers cannot continue. We cannot get to a point where we were a couple weeks ago, and we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. We're looking at the policy options. We can't continue like this. Our people in the field can't continue, and our system isn't built for it. I know very well, hearing from Chief Hastings, Chief Ortiz, and others, how close we came to breaking, how close you came to breaking here in this sector. And it's our responsibility to make sure that never happens again. We don't get that close again.
Wow. Harris, there is a word that we have heard repeatedly from the Biden administration, and that's the word progress. Kamala Harris said we've made progress on our southern border. Alejandro Mayorkas has used that word. Jen Psaki has used that word. Progress, progress, progress. This is a very stunning, different verbiage being used in private behind the scenes.
We need transparency on what their plan looks like and what, progress actually means to them, how they're measuring it. If they're measuring progress by, oh, well, we sent somebody down there and that person talked privately, at least we thought that it was mostly private, and gave people kind of an attaboy, a pat on the back, and gave us an idea of what we need to do next, that's one thing. But if progress is what it should be, and that is solving the crisis and the problems and turning off the spigot and putting on a moratorium, that's a whole different ball of wax. And so we don't know what they're looking at, which I guess is what allows a president to say to someone like Cuomo, basically heck of a job in the middle of a scandal that caused him to quit, a sex scandal. I mean, I guess if your idea of progress is you just went there or phoned them, that's fine. But what we need now, with nearly 250,000 people coming across our border in a month's time, I mean, that's 10 times the size of most cities in America, most small towns in America. Like, if that's what we're looking for, then you're going to have to turn off that spigot. And look, Congressman Andy Biggs from Arizona, there are several now who are banding together and saying, we need to impeach Mayorkas to force him to get the attention of the administration that progress looks like doing your job. Let's ask them. Next White House briefing. What is progress to you?
Great question. I really hope one of the correspondents asked that. Morgan, we also heard Mayorkas in this leaked audio say it's important never to understate the situation. But then in that same leaked audio, he calls the situation unsustainable. We almost lost a sector. We're going to lose. There was a sector on the point of breaking. He's understating it very clearly, publicly, saying something different privately.
Kayleigh, I thought that leaked audio was fascinating because I heard a DHS secretary who clearly is very frustrated that he can't do his job, right? It was someone behind the scenes. I think I agreed with a lot of what he was saying. He was saying that illegal border crossing should be illegal, that he knew this was a problem, that they needed to keep Title 42. And what's evident for me, the difference in that leaked audio versus what he is saying publicly, it's evident to me that he's not being allowed to do his job, that he's not being allowed to put the policies in place that he knows would stop the flow of the border. So the question is why? And I think it's because this administration truly does not care if these migrants are coming over illegally. They just don't.
They don't. And Dagan, Morgan has a point there. He's saying privately things that would not be allowed to be said publicly in the Biden administration. Later in the audio, he went on to praise the heroic efforts of these border agents, saying, I'm going to try to get you hazard pay because they're dealing with COVID. He talked about increasing the number of agents. He talked about ICE taking a bigger role. ICE, the same ICE that the left wants to abolish. So is it just untenable for him to say these things publicly because of the AOC wing of the party that has such a grip on what's going on?
Well, I think you've seen with the Biden administration, they would rather talk than walk. They would rather try to control language, as also fascists like to do, rather than implement policies or leave policies in place that kept our border secure and kept again, drug traffickers and human traffickers, from profiting off of human misery and suffering, whether it's trafficking drugs or children. So remember earlier in the year, Jen Psaki over and over wouldn't call it a crisis. She referred to it as a challenge. We can take, I guess, a sliver of solace in the fact that Secretary Mayorkas at least privately acknowledges what we can see with our own eyes in terms of the video that we've shot, in terms of what we're hearing from whether it's mayors or Border Patrol agents all up and down the border, or just looking at the numbers coming in monthly of the highest number of apprehensions in more than 2 decades. So again, I think the only thing that could turn it around is the poll numbers have moved against this administration so much. What, only 35% approve of the handling of immigration? They care more about the polls than the human suffering. So maybe this gets them off their you-know-whats to actually deal with this crisis that's affecting so many Americans.
Yeah, there's nothing like polling always motivating politicians to finally act. Dan, one agent stood up to Mayorkas saying this: for those of us who have been around long enough, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We've seen this happen before. We know exactly how to shut it down. We need to make illegal entry illegal. That sounds like common sense from someone there on the ground.
Yeah, it's always good to listen to the guys and the gals on the ground. They usually know the situation best. Look, I think there's 3 things that this administration needs to be doing. And we talked about the first one, which is admit publicly we have a crisis at the southern border. Secondly, we've got to throw more resources at this challenge, at this crisis. Secretary Mayorkas talked about increasing the number of Border Patrol agents, really our first line of defense, by 2,000 in 2023. I think that this crisis demands more immediate action, more technology, and more people. And then third, we haven't had comprehensive immigration reform since 1986. So both parties need to come together with some bipartisan consensus on concrete measures to make the southern border safe.